What's going on, family, and welcome to another episode of the Military Cashflow. What's going on with you today, Mike?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. I had a root canal recently.
What?
That was a pain in the ass. But besides that, man, I'm doing good. No real complaints and nothing new. Just grinding away. What about you, man? What's going on with you?
Yeah, they always say that a lot, about as much fun as a root canal, right? So
Yeah. I was with a good dentist, though. I'll give him that, man. He numbed me up real good. So I got something else filled out in the other dentist. A different guy numbed me up, but he numbed me up so much that my whole face went numb. My eyeball was numb.
Oh
my eyeball was tingling. It was weird. It was just floating. I had a Forrest Whitaker eye. It was something insane, man. So this new one was good. I highly recommend him.
Yeah, I got a new cavity myself, man. We're talking, this is not real estate at all, but still, I got a new cavity myself, man. I was actually kind of upset, man. I've been using a little water pick and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, man, my teeth are gonna be good. They're gonna see my teeth. They're gonna be like, yeah, man, you've been doing a great job. They're like, well, see in between here, you got a cavity. I'm like, how the hell do I get another cavity? I've been flossing.
Pissed me off. It's like the more I floss and take care of my shit, the worse my teeth get. I'm like, come on, man. I floss more than the average American. I know that.
Yeah, but but yeah, so I'm hanging out with family. I'm hanging out with family right now, dude. We're just we're having a good time. Yeah, we're just having a good time. Going to be heading over to this flip hacking live event next week. I'm actually pretty excited about that. I haven't been to an event, like a live event, in such a long time because of COVID and everything. So pretty excited about going to that. It's right down the way, so it's driving distance. So I'm pretty happy. It's going to be hosted by Bill Allen, who hopefully we'll have on the podcast here soon, and then Adam Whitney speaking, who's been on the podcast, and then David Pere, who's been on the podcast as well. So got some heavy hitters going to be on the stage. So I'm pretty excited about seeing that.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. Bob Sleeves will be out there too.
Yeah,
be sure to connect with him, man. So there's gonna be a lot of people out there.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people from the group that's going to be out there. I posted a comment asking that, like, hey, who all's going to be at the Flip Hacking Live event? And there's like, I don't know, 30 or 40 people. It seems like from the group is going to be there. So I'm pretty excited about linking up with people there. So it's good stuff. It's great stuff.
Small community, man. Small community real estate investing.
Yeah,
guys got to get out there and network.
Yeah. Speaking of that, today's guest, Bill Nye. It's
Blair Nye.
Blair Nye. Wow.
But
and that's why I messed up his name already, dude. Like,
it's been getting us, man.
Before the show, for you guys to know, his name is Blair Nye, but we've been saying, Bill Nye, the science guy, but his name is Blair Nye. So today's guest, Blair Nye. I'm sorry about that. If you're listening to this, Blair, man, I'm sorry about that, man. I butchered it already. But Blair Nye, man, hey, he's up there in Tacoma, Washington, and he is killing it, dude. He's living in a house hack, and we talk a lot about his process of going through getting that first house hack, some of the wins and losses he's had while navigating that, and then also doing his out-of-state deal as well, and what he went through, some of the lessons learned from that deal as well. So just this is a great episode, Mike.
Yeah, I love this as an episode to think of this as an approach that's very stable, cool, calm, and collected. And the reason I say that is because he's going to talk about his background and how comfortable he was with money. But as soon as he had the wake-up call, he still took a couple of years before he made his first move. And then he made very intelligent moves based on some strategic thought patterns, right? How to build his team, the market he was going to do, how he was going to rent it out, the tenants. And he drops a lot of subtle talking points that we hit on a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of value in this episode. And I know we're not going to do it justice in the intro. So without further ado, let's get to it.
What's going on? Today we got a special guest, Blair Nye. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So as you said, my name is Blair Nye. I'm 33 years old, and I'm an active duty special operations soldier in the United States Army. I'm a staff sergeant stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord. I'm happily married to my beautiful wife, Alex. Her and I are house hacking a duplex in Tacoma, Washington. And we also own a standalone single family rental in Fayetteville, North Carolina, both of which we bought sight unseen while, each respective town. Yeah, if I'm not busy, gone, like training or, deployed, then I'm probably nerding out on finance, real estate stuff, or, enjoying the outdoors, rock climbing, or just, exploring the world with my wife.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we definitely got to get into the sight unseen thing, because I think there's a lot of service members that go through that one, and then they would love some tips or tricks that you've had maybe navigating through that process. But before we start that, can you kind of tell us where your, I guess, financial journey or your real estate journey kind of began?
Yeah, happily. So I had great parents, right? They talked to me about saving and stuff when I was young. So they helped me open up a savings account when I was like a young teenager. So I've been sort of financially minded for a long time. I've been tracking my money since I was 25 years old, the year I joined the military. But I was just tracking it. I really wasn't. I was just making sure I didn't lose money every month, Fast forward, I was 28 years old. One day, woke up as an E4 in the barracks in the Army and thought, shit, I don't have any money for someone my age, and so I tracked my net worth for the first time, and yeah, $31,000 net worth, which some people say it's a lot, some people say it's a little. I think it's, for how much money had passed through my life, my hands up to that point in my life, it wasn't very much. So I really started digging into blogs, podcasts, financial independence stuff, and through all those, I got into index fund investing, and that's all cool, but I felt like I was missing something, and I kept hearing a common theme, right? So all the wealthiest people that I heard on these podcasts, and all the people that had the most free time and could have the most influence, all had, for the most part, real estate in common. So I started looking at that, went into the rabbit hole in that for a couple of years, and it's probably 2018 when I really started digging into that. It took me until 2020 to buy my first property, but I'd say that's when my journey really started.
Okay.
I love
Hey,
it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, because the tracking the money at 25, what a lot of people don't realize is, you said that your parents did a decent job of teaching you about finances. You weren't oblivious to the world of finance, but it still took some sort of pivotal moment in your life for you to say, okay, maybe I should start taking this a little bit more seriously. Do you remember exactly what that event was where you said, okay, now let me take a deeper look into my finances?
Yeah, I wish I could say specifically what the event was, but around that time, I discovered a blog called Mr. Money Mustache. Yeah. That's kind of, you guys probably know what it is. Real frugal oriented finance blog. And I think it's awesome. But I think I had started reading a little bit of that, and that's what kind of made me start thinking about it. And that dude was like, I don't know, 29, 30, something like that when he retired. I was approaching 29 and realized I couldn't retire in 20 years if I wanted to, at least in my current job. So yeah, I think that's what did it. I just woke up one morning and it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. So
yeah, but you were doing some things right, though. I mean, for you to have any kind of net worth at all, right? As an E4, you're saying you're staying in the barracks, right? That's honestly an accomplishment. You didn't go out and get the I don't know what's the thing, the Dodge Charger. You didn't go out and get the Dodge Charger.
Hellcats nowadays.
The Hellcat. So you were doing some things right. I mean, you were like you said, money conscious, right? And you're at least tracking your funds. So having a net worth, I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself, especially at that stage of your life, right? Fast forwarding a little bit further down the road, right? And you said you started digging to real estate for a couple of years, and then you got in your first house hack, or was that your first standalone rental?
So it was first a house hack and then a standalone rental, probably about a year later. So.
Okay. So let's talk through some of that.
Okay. Yeah. So I was nearing the end of a long course at Fort Bragg. This is 2019. I know I'm slated to PCS, to Joint Base Lewis McChord, and February, March timeframe of 20. And so I started digging in. I'd heard of house hacking. I read Craig Curelop's book on it, and I was just obsessed with the idea of it. That was going to be my ticket, my entry into real estate, and I was going to pocket that BAH, boy. I was excited about that. That's a raise right there. So I contacted a realtor off of Bigger Pockets forums in the Tacoma area. And I'd read some books on long distance real estate investing. So I knew like, okay, you need to have, some boots on the grounds connections, property manager, so some people you trust, some people that can tell you about the area. So I'd reached out to a few people like that, started talking to them, getting a feel for Tacoma, Washington. And then, found my realtor brought me this off-market duplex that I ended up closing on in February of 2020 for $325,000.
In Tacoma, I mean, I hear Tacoma is like off the charts right now. Now you're saying that was just a year ago?
That was 18 months ago. That's February of 2020. Yeah.
Even still, I mean, if I remember correctly, the real estate market started to hike in, I guess it's been about a year or so. But even still, 325, man, that's got to be a decent price for Tacoma, right?
It was, and I found out later, I learned a lot of lessons. This has been an awesome experience. My net worth has jumped because of it, but it was off market for a reason, and I found that out later, and I found out multiple people have been scared off this house, and that's it's because it had all sorts of issues I didn't know about before I closed it, such as foundation issues.
Yo, tell us the details, man. Tell us the details. This is how we learn. This is how our audience learns and builds. Because there's somebody, I'm telling you, that's going through the same exact thing. And they're like, damn, dude, like this thing's been on the market for a long time. Maybe there's something wrong with it. Like, tell us the details, man. How'd you navigate that?
Okay, so it looked all right, right? I knew it needed some work, maybe some new paint, things like that, new flooring. I got a home inspection done. Everything was pretty standard for the area. It's a 116-year-old property. So lots of basic repairs needed. During that home inspection, this is where I failed to do my real due diligence. During the home inspection, the home inspector said I couldn't get fully under the crawl space because there was stuff blocking it. There's a bunch of debris. And he said, but what I saw looked good. And I accepted that. We had a company, we paid a company to clean out the crawl space, which is good, but I failed to have someone get back under there and take a full look. So, we move in, the house had a little settling, and I hired a foundation company to come out, give it a look, and then give me a quote on making whatever repairs we got to make to at least stop the house from settling more. I got quotes from $50,000 to $120,000 to fix it. Dude, scared the hell out of me. I'm an E6, fresh E6. I can't pay that, So, that caused a few sleepless nights. So that was, issue number one to figure out. Eventually, I called around a bunch of different foundation specialists, all that, and then after navigating through like 5 or 6 different companies, came across a guy who wasn't trying to swindle me, wasn't trying to sell me some fancy steel piers for my foundation, and he fixed it for about 9,000, just under 9,000 actually. So that was a big thing. Other repairs and stuff that we've missed out on. Oh, that's probably the biggest repair issue. Another big lesson learned. We bought sight unseen. It had tenants in the first floor already. I was scared to deal with a vacancy right off the bat. I was thinking, you know what? Those tenants have been there a while. They've been paying. We're just going to keep them for another year. Unless you know tenants, unless you know those tenants, I would not recommend just inheriting tenants because they have a good payment record. Sorry, my camera's moving some, but
no, you're good. You're good.
That was another big thing. They paid on time each and every month. Man, we moved in with some people we would never ever choose to live next to, and I could deal with it all right. But my wife, she was pretty unhappy, and man, you've heard that saying, "Unhappy wife, unhappy life," right? So, that was a rough year. So basically, if you're going to buy sight unseen, highly recommend making sure you do thorough due diligence. If there's any issues, any doubts, get a professional in there. I could have paid a foundation inspector $80 for his time to go walk this property, and I would have, could have gone in eyes wide open from there on. So
I'm really glad that you brought this up, because this is one of the biggest mistakes that not only new investors make, but even seasoned investors who get cocky. I'm one of them, where I was just like, yeah, I'll take that inspection for what it's worth, right? Yeah, I'll take it. And then all of a sudden you find out that it's 120,000 or whatever the case is on the back end. And unfortunately, now that you own the property, you own the problem. So it's up to you to find the solution. And luckily you found it for 9,000. But, let that be a warning. Let that be a message to everybody out there. Typically, and I don't know every state, but I know in the state of North Carolina, the seller must give you all reasonable access to do all inspections that you want prior to closing, to include clearing out the crawl space and then getting a second pair of eyes on it, right? So let that be a warning to everybody listening. Do your due diligence. Don't do the same thing that Blair did. Now I really want to dig into this to this tenant piece, man, because I've heard this come up several times as well. Sure. People will say, "Hey, I'm scared to take the vacancy because I want the cash flow immediately." So no real prompt here, but walk us a little bit through your thought process for why you wanted to keep that tenant or why you were scared to change it, and what were the lessons that you learned after the fact?
So it's exactly as you said, Mike. I was just scared to take that vacancy up front. I was making a decision out of fear instead of one just straight up out of logic. And, if you look back on your life, most decisions made out of fear don't end up being good decisions. So yeah, I was thinking, okay, you know what? I'll deal with the certainty of having that income, and I don't want to deal with that vacancy and having to turn the unit. But I didn't screen those tenants. I didn't have a trusted professional manager that I now work with screen those tenants, So I really didn't know what types of neighbors I was going to get in my house hack. And that's huge, right? Because you're living next to these people for at least a year at a time, usually. I'm sorry, what else would you want from me right there, Mike?
Yeah, so what was the lessons learned? So understanding that you didn't get a chance to screen them, and ideally you would want to screen them. But I guess what were some of the lessons that you learned as far as picking tenants or making decisions based on tenants?
I don't know what their credit scores or anything like that were like, but I definitely learned that this was a family with more kids and more people living in the household than were on the lease. I know kids don't have to be on the lease normally, but even adults. These tenants, I don't think they had a great credit score. They had this big dog that was super destructive on the property, and my wife and I, they would bump music all hours of night. So you can't always screen for that kind of stuff.
But Nye.
What's up?
It was Club Nye.
Oh yeah. It was rough, man. My wife would set like a glass of water on our dresser and just watch it, ripple like T-Rex was walking nearby or something. But anyways, I digress. Yeah. So lessons learned really is just just don't be scared of having the vacancy. And when it comes to screening tenants, you're gonna have to look for that good credit score, good rental history, and really try to get some good references from previous landlords. That's about really all I can say on that front.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I did, I don't know, this might help somebody. I'm curious to know what you do in those situations as well too, Mike. So I've had a couple of inherited tenants on one of the 4-unit that I bought. And what I did, I had my property manager that I worked with go back and make them re-sign a lease, and it had all our terms on it, right? And that was kind of our way of re-screening them. I don't think we did a credit check or anything like that, or a re-credit check on them, because obviously we looked at their payment, if they were making payments on time, looking at the rent roll from the previous owner. But that was our way of mitigating. But it is a lot different when you have an investment property that you're not living in versus one that you're house hacking, because for that 4-unit, for example, I never lived in that 4-unit. So I never had to worry about, Club Wynn going on at 2:00 in the morning, with the thumping or anything. But, if I was living there, then I have to take into consideration my wife and my kids and that entire environment, like you're saying, with the dogs and the destructive dogs and all the other stuff. But I don't know, that's just something to think about as far as one way that you possibly could mitigate moving forward. Anybody out there listening that's going through the same thing? Mike, you got any suggestions for that?
Yeah, I've house hacked several times. And one of the hardest things to do is kind of separate yourself from the tenant when they know you're the landlord, because then they try to use that commonality. Let's be friends. Hey, yeah, I'll keep it down, and they'll try to get on your good side and play to your humanality, to your personality there. What I like to do is just put a third-party property manager right in place, and that kind of alleviates that. Now, to your point, to the inherited tenant, typically, in the state of North Carolina, we have to live up to whatever the current lease is. So if the lease says, hey, we have 8 more months, that is what it is. But at the end of that 8 months, that third-party property manager's coming in. More than likely, we're going to hike the, if we want to get the tenant out of there, we're going to hike that payment, right? And then, like Dan said, we're going to have different terms in there because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to want to see that payment increase, and they'll go somewhere else. I got a question for you though, Blair. When one of the biggest issues that I run across, especially with off-market deals, when you're looking at tenant occupied, is finding security deposits, pet deposits, things like that. Did you get anything like that when you actually bought this house?
Actually, we did, yeah. And that was something I harped on with my agent. I was like, hey, make sure you get this kind of info, you know, and I only knew to ask for that because I read books on it and research prior to, but yeah, I definitely asked, you know, let me see the leases, let me see the security deposits. Also, to go back to what you guys said, I apologize, I wasn't quite prepared to answer that last question. Well, we actually, from day one, we had third party property management handling them for us. However, our agent that, you know, sold us property, I guess, spilled the beans that the owner was moving in upstairs. So
yeah, they always do that, man. It's like, why did you ruin it for me?
Yeah, so that was tough to navigate, man, because they were going to be our neighbors for the next year. And so we had to, like, you know, I was going downstairs, telling them to turn it down and do all that. And at one point we actually did talk to our property manager and say, hey, what can we do? And they you know, sent the good neighbor policy documents over to the tenants. They made them sign it on all that. And you know, so we had that in black and white, like, hey, look, you're obviously in violation of all this, but, you know, you're trying to navigate it, you know, as peacefully as you can. It's kind of awkward at times, especially if they know you're the landlord. But
so the big question, are they still there though?
No. So we, you know, it never got too bad, but it was definitely awkward at times. And I was letting them know, like, hey man, this can't go on. Either way, we're going to fix this unit up. We're going to raise the rent to, you know, XYZ, and they weren't going to be able to afford that anyway. So like you said, Mike, you raise the rent, you get out the trouble tenant. Now we have a phenomenal tenant downstairs, super quiet, you know, pays rent on time every month. And she's just, awesome. So
let me ask you about tenant turnover there. So you finally got them out the door. You did collect the security deposit, but you mentioned several people were living in there, big dog. How much, let me ask you this, expectation versus reality, damage control and costs for the tenant turnover. What was your experience?
Okay. So, you know, reading books and going all that, like expectations, like, oh, it'll be fine. Security deposit will cover it. You know, not the case.
Never.
Holes in doors, like all that. Trying to claim it's normal wear and tear. You know, it's I think we paid probably $4,000 over their security deposit and turning the unit, you know, on top of just upgrades we made on our own, out of our own pockets. So it was an expensive turn. We put some money into this house, you know, we bought it the VA loan, 0 down. But over the course of the past 18 months, we put just under 62,000 into this house total. You know, so all our cash flow, you know, from the property, savings and stuff like that. So we haven't dwindled our bank account. I mean, I don't want that to scare off anyone else. That was me being smart with my money, my wife and I being smart with our money, making repairs necessary. And we may have put 62 grand in, but our net worth is still skyrocketed over the past 18 months, thanks to this house hack. So
excellent. Let's go ahead, Mike. Look,
no. I just really wanted to highlight what you just said right there is you did put money into the property, but your net worth has scaled. And unfortunately, the reason why so many people don't elevate themselves financially in life is due for fear or just the lack of knowledge when it comes to the understanding that real estate is a business. You do have to put money into it. It's an investment, but understand that the return from that investment is going to be far greater than what you put in. And a lot of people block themselves out right out the gate when they think, oh, but I have to put in $62,000, give or take, in a piece of property. But understand, you know, you're going to hold this piece of property for 30 years, 40 years, more, maybe less, 1031, so forth and so on. So I just really wanted to highlight that. And hopefully, if somebody's listening who's afraid to make that jump, to understand the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the big piece. And I really want to harp on just the impact of one property and what it can do to a person's life, right? And what it can do to their financial situation. I mean, let's kind of just go over that just a little bit. All right. So Blair's got a house hack. He's got a duplex. Is that one side that you're renting out right now covering pretty much covering the mortgage, or at least reducing it by a pretty large chunk?
It's absolutely reducing it. So we're living in a 600 square foot unit. The downstairs one's a little over 1,000. Our mortgage is $1,821, and the downstairs rent $1,595. Nice. So we are living in a unit that would normally rent for approximately $1,300. We're living here for $369, $370 a month. So I'm pocketing, most of my BAH.
Nice. Exactly. So that's the big thing. I mean, we all know, listen to this, if you're listening to this and you have a rental or you're renting a property or however you're doing, if you're not house hacking, that whatever you're paying to live where you're living is a large portion of your monthly budget, right? Typically the average American, it's about a third of their budget, right? So, I mean, if you can think about that for a second and kind of conceptualize that, and how much of a difference that will make in your financial situation if you could keep 30% of your money, right? And then on top of that, there's other ways that you're building your net worth and building your cash flow. There's debt pay down, there's appreciation, there's some forced appreciation because you've made some adjustments to it as well. There's the tax benefits. There's just so many benefits of real estate. And just that one move, you've set yourself up for success in the future, even if you don't buy another property ever, right? And you get out and you retire after 20 years, right? The appreciation of this asset in the next 15, 16 years is going to be phenomenal, right? It's going to be ridiculous. And you can easily cash out, and then that'll likely fund most of your retirement, right? So I just want you to really think about what that can, if you're listening to this, what that can really do for you. Just one deal, one house hack. It's a very, very significant event, I think. So
100%. Yeah. It's made a huge difference in our lives. So, we're keeping most of our BAH, and, it's setting us up. We've actually refinanced out of our VA loan just recently. So we're going to do this again. We're stoked. I'm not stopping here, man.
So I love that. All right. So that's a great transition. So talk to us about how you refinanced out of the VA loan and what your next step is. Essentially, what are you looking to do?
And why you did that?
Gotcha. Once we saw, how much it could impact our net worth, how much it could free up cash flow from just paying to live somewhere, we figured we have to do this again. So the only way to do this again with little or no money down is with VA or FHA loan, right? So initially we were like, okay, we'll use an FHA loan. We'll put 3.5%, 5% down. No big deal. We'll find a fourplex somewhere here. And we actually got a fourplex under contract, and we're pretty stoked. But the FHA has an interesting rule or test called the FHA self-sufficiency test. Have either of you guys heard of that?
No, I have
not.
Okay, well, the FHA self-sufficiency test basically states that a multifamily property, 2 to 4 units, has to be able to pay for the mortgage at 75% occupancy. It's something along those lines. So don't quote me exactly, but either way, they only go based on the rents that the appraiser says the property can get. So after a month of having this property under contract, our financing fell through because the appraiser came through with rents that were significantly under what our property manager knew we could rent this property for. So that was pretty frustrating. We knew we could rent each unit for $1,600, $1,500. The appraiser said they were each worth $1,100 per month. Ooh. So FHA said, no, man, this isn't going to work. And they took the financing from us. So out of frustration, we went back to the drawing board and we realized, we have just about enough equity in our home to refi to a conventional loan and reinstate our VA entitlement. Let's do that. So that's why we refied out of the VA loan. So we could use that again, not deal with that annoying FHA self-sufficiency test, and continue the house hack role, if that makes sense.
Creativity, man, figuring it out, dude. I love it. It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. You got to stay creative out there. And I love how, many people hear they'll hear no, and then they'll say, I can't do it. And instead you heard no, and you was like, man, how? I know I can. Let me just figure out how. So to really touch on that refinance piece, I think that is extremely intelligent that a lot of veterans are missing out on. You use that VA loan to acquire the property. The way the market has shifted over the past 2 years is insane. Many people have actually gotten some appreciation in there, plus their forced appreciation or whatever the case may be. Now's the time where they can refinance. They may have to bring a little bit more to closing, but regardless, they refinance it and free up their VA entitlement again to go out and buy a brand new one with 0% down. So I think that's extremely intelligent. For those who didn't get that, rewind it and listen to it again, man. Great job, great strategy there. All right, so what's next for you? I mean, so obviously you're working on this one, which is going to be a great one, but you plan on doing military for 20 years? Do you plan on acquiring one a year? Like, what's your overall plan?
Yeah, I want to say absolutely not, to the military thing. In fact, Mike, you've been a big inspiration to me in that regard.
I hope that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's
the military's mad. I'm getting everybody out.
No, man. Like, hey, I'm sorry. Some sergeant major hears this. I'm getting out at the end of this contract. But it's mostly, Mike, you've been an inspiration to me, and that I've seen someone else from my community in the military get out and be successful in real estate. But I made the decision to get out after realizing, I'm a married man now. I'll be having kids in a couple of years. Most guys in special operations are gone from home most of the time. I want to be around to see my kids grow up, man. I want to see those little stages and growth between 0 and 6 months old and all that. So I decided I'm going to get out. I have a contract until 2026, so I got a while still. Sometimes I get down on myself, like, man, I got so long. But at the same time, I've got that steady W-2 income that lenders love. So I'll be getting out, and I'm really kind of shifting my focus towards acquiring my first large commercial multifamily property. Acquired a standalone single family rental in Fayetteville. But I was stoked to get it. But after I closed on it, I looked back and was like, man, that was a lot of paperwork and a lot of time for one door. And the cash flow is good, but it ain't. I'd have to do that a lot, and I don't have that kind of time. So yeah, what's next is multifamily investing, getting as good as I can at that, and being a good underwriter while still being a good soldier during the rest of my time in the military.
That's the key, man. That's the hardest piece. I want to talk about that in a second, but first I want to talk about the out-of-state deal. You're able to do one out of state. Let's run through that, because again, there's a lot of service members out there that are trying to buy. They might be living in California and they don't want to, they can't afford those prices, right? So they want to buy somewhere out of state, a little bit more economically friendly, I guess, something they can afford and still cash flow well, right? Can you talk us through that? Like, what did you have to have in place in order to do that out of state, and what are some of the things that you went through that could possibly help someone else?
So had to have, a good trusted agent or team of agents, which I already had, luckily, because I, had been in Fayetteville, North Carolina for a while. I knew the 5 pillars. I knew I could reach out to them and find someone trustworthy. So had that in place. Need a good property manager. Already knew one there because I talked to a couple before I left there. But so really you need a good lender, a good property manager, good agent, and then a good handyman if you're going to be doing some work. And those seem like the hardest ones to find. But I'd say if you're nervous about doing something out of state, look at where you have some sort of advantage, right? Look at a place that you've been or and if that place makes sense economically or for investments, go for it there. If you can't find a place where you have some sort of advantage that makes sense, maybe take a trip there. Find a place that does make sense that you do like. Take a trip there, get to know the place, rub elbows with a few of those kind of core people I talked about. And then, you can fly home and you can communicate with them. And it's honestly, buying out of state, once you have the right people in place, is the same as buying in your city. Because that fourplex that we had under contract, I put it under, it's 20 minutes south of me. I put it under contract sight unseen also. And I could have driven down to it anytime I wanted, but that's what you really need to go buy out of state.
Yeah, I find sometimes it's even easier to do things out of state versus, or at least out of your area, right, than it is when you're right there. Because a lot of times if you're right next to it, you find yourself, I don't know about you, but like you find yourself driving to it all the time and going around there and trying literally just doing whatever you can to involve yourself in the process, even though you don't really necessarily need to be that deep into the process, right? So sometimes, totally. When you have that little bit of space and you have the team set up, it kind of forces you to use your team and use others around you to get what you need done.
You have to systematize, right? I mean, treat it like a business, and that's the key right there. I hear you, Dan. I hear you. Like, I know when we do our next house hack, it's going to be hard for me not to drive, down the road back to this one, and be like, they treating it good, they treating it right. But yeah, I like not having that problem. I just listen to my property manager. I communicate well with them in Fayetteville, and that property's been working out beautifully.
Yeah, there's always a fine line between your first couple of deals. Just like you both mentioned, people tend to want to be hands-on and very involved, and that's perfectly fine, especially as you're learning the ropes. But to your point there, Blair, if you ever intend to scale, if you ever intend to truly buy back your freedom, buy back your time, then you have to systematize to where you're not doing that and somebody else is, and you're just monitoring and managing those individuals. I love it.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad you found the awesome 5 Pillars team up there, So if you're listening to this and you're in Fayetteville, you know who to call, dude. And in Charlotte, you know who to call.
Shameless plugs.
Yeah. So yeah, man, let's talk about some of the time. I mean, I love that you are, that you've already decided that you're not going to stay in, but the reasons why, right? You're saying, hey, I want to be a dad. I really want to be involved. I really want to have that time with my family and things, right? But right now, you're gearing up towards that, and you're still building a small empire while you're still in and still being a good soldier. How are you managing that time?
So that's been the biggest challenge, right? Especially, I was actually in the Navy for 3 years, then in the Army for almost 5. And so I've been in the regular military too. And I had way more time in the regular military. So being in special operations, that's been a real big challenge. What's worked for me has been time blocking. I read, I think it's The Miracle Morning Millionaires by Hal Elrod. And that was an awesome book. I actually read that while I was out of state training. But what I really took from that book was, seize the day when you can, before anyone really messes with you. That's early in the morning. And time block. I kind of took inventory of what I do every day, realized, oh, I really do have some more time than I thought I did. And then I kind of built out a schedule for how I want each and every day to look based off my obligations and what I had to do. And so, for me, I get up in the morning. As soon as I'm done with breakfast, that's my time. That's my real estate finance time. That's my time to make moves there during the week. And then Saturday, that's my day I'm off. That's my work day outside of work. You know what I mean? That's the work day on the business. And then Sunday, that's kind of, family, whatever right there. But just time blocking. That's the biggest thing.
How's your wife been involved in it? Because that's another aspect of it. Because we talk about family, right? How involved is your wife into it? And I don't know, what is her thoughts in it? Did you have to kind of push her into this? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, Dan. My wife's played an instrumental role in this. I'm the nerd on it. I'm the one that dives into it. I talk her ear off, and I probably annoy her at times with it, but she's been instrumental in the fact that she's been open to it. She supported me, and she's actually started diving in. She's bought in. We would have these monthly meetings where we sit down and talk about finances and goals and try and get on the same page about our vision. Because, you move better as a single unit than you do 2 individuals. Mm-hmm. And she's got buy-in now because she understands, hey, real estate can help buy us our freedom. She doesn't have to work when we have kids if we have enough passive income. Now she's helping me analyze deals. She's learning more about real estate. And she is kind of helping to take over and help me out with social media stuff too, because I'm trying to become more active on that as well. And that's awesome because I'm terrible at it. I don't like it. And she's really good at it. But yeah, it's been a lot of communication, open, honest communication between us, and just making sure that we can get our goals aligned with each other, and we both see how real estate can help us.
Love that, man. That's very important to my wife and I too. You talk about those monthly things, we kind of do it every other week or so like that. But I've heard some people call them money dates, right? Where you sit down, you go over your goals, you go over what your finances are. And for us, it's just really easy to do it on the 30th and the 14th or something, you know what I mean? So right before we get paid, we know exactly where everything's going, how much we're allocating to what we're saving towards and all those other things. So yeah, man, I think that's extremely, extremely important, not just for your family's, wealth building process, but just, family sanity, right? Because if you are constantly working on the weekends and, you know, you're working towards this end and your wife doesn't understand or she doesn't know what's going on or the why behind it, right? It can be very, very hard to keep that relationship stable, right? And especially once you add kids into the mix, as they're getting older and things, and you're like, you know, I might need to do this, I might need to do this. And if your kids don't understand the why, or if you can't involve them into the same things, into the process and things that you're doing while building that wealth, sometimes it's hard for them to really understand what's going on as well. So yeah, man, I love that. I love it.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Absolutely, man. And the one thing I wanted to highlight there is that you mentioned, even during your time blocking, that you still dedicate one day for your family, which, as you said, and as you mentioned during this podcast, is your entire why. That is your purpose. Too many times, especially people in our field, in our, you know, mindset, we think that, hey, we're working our 9 to 5 and then we're doing our side hustle and that's it, because we have to get to this arbitrary number for financial freedom. But we don't forget, or we always forget, why we're doing it in the first place. And if you're not enjoying your purpose, your why, your family, your charity, your church, whatever it is for you, during that process, you're going to run yourself into the ground. So I'd commend you for that. And I hope that people took note on that as well.
100%. I got to throw in there real quick. There's a little bit of time at the end of every day too, where that's just family time. It's not just that one day a week. She gets more than that, you know. But,
yes, I'm sure she wouldn't let you slide on that. Hell no.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. So we already talked about what's next for you. You're looking into trying to get into larger apartments just because you saw the time that it took to do one, right? So so you're looking into larger deals now. If there was a few things, or if there was one thing that you could give to any service member out there that would help them kind of do what you're doing or put them on the right path, what would that be?
Man, I gotta make it just a couple things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
So one is, you know, time block. That's a huge one. You know, like I said, figure out how much time you spend doing different things in a day, take inventory of it, then build a schedule around that, around your goals. You know, there's a saying I like a lot, and it's that professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. So the second thing is, you know, if you're young, doesn't matter if you're young or not, but if you're single, you know, you think you might one day be sharing a life with somebody, be very selective about who you bring into your life. Make sure you're both on the same page or can at least get on the same page goals wise, you know, communicate well. Because selecting a spouse, believe it or not, it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. And if you're like, well, hey, I'm already married, you know, I'm stuck with this person, whatever. I love him, but I'm stuck with them.
Divorce.
Dude, divorce is expensive, man. Divorce is expensive. You know, if you don't want to get divorced, just become a better communicator. Study how to become a better communicator, how to become a better listener, because it'll help you in your relationship and it will also help you in your business. So that's what I got.
That was mic drop, dude. That was the best. I think that was the best, you know, advice that I've heard across this on our channel so far. As far as one thing that is so key, dude. The partnership that you choose for life, it affects your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and you know what, that needs to be a message out, especially because this is for all people, but especially the younger folks listening right now. I guarantee all of us probably were in the same boat at some point during our college years, during our younger years, where we tend to think that, you know, we move with the times of fashion. We're looking for the attractive person. We're going to the bar, whatever the case is. Think about that, guys. And I tell this all the time, so judge me however you want. If you pick up your significant other, your life partner in the bar, that is what you can expect them to do later on in life, because that's where you found them, right? If you want to find somebody in a library or at school or at college, whatever, trying to bear whatever it is, then, you know, that's what you can expect them to, you know, pursue later on in life. So just be very conscious of that, man. I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot at all. And the studying to be a better communicator is huge. Just communicating. Most of my books on the shelf are communicating, Dale Carnegie books and stuff like that, man. It's huge. Just understanding how people receive your message is extremely important. All right. So another thing you mentioned, man, you said you hate social media, and your wife's helping you out with that. But after listening to this podcast, everybody wants to reach out to you. They want to see how you're doing it. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
So I got to say this, if someone wants to talk real estate, talk anything, I do love engaging with people on social media. I just hate trying to come up with good posts. So my wife and I just started a new page that's kind of documenting our financial journey together on Instagram. It's at Pretty Fi for a Nye. It's the number 4. So Pretty Fi number 4 a Nye. Hit us up on there. You can message her or me for questions, to either of us. You can hit me up on blair.nye.therealestateguy on Instagram. And last but not least, Blair Nye on Facebook. Just, if you want to talk about real estate, especially if you're in the secondary, tertiary markets, Charlotte or Raleigh, or just really anywhere, but those areas specifically, or even Manchester, New Hampshire, because I got some buddies out there. But talk real estate, finances, Army, life, whatever. Hit me up. I'm an open book.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely have all that stuff down below. All your links down below. Make sure to reach out to Blair. It's good people, and he's working his way to his freedom goal, to his freedom number, right? So through real estate. So it's great stuff, man. We really, really appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate all the knowledge you just dropped.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. And with that, this is Dan Wynn
and Mike Glaspie
signing off.